take just a moment and allow your eyes to close. Allow yourself to just arrive here. There's nothing to wait for. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you should be doing. This is exactly the place you are meant to be. Right here, right now. Just allow the awareness to pull from the outer world to the inner world. Allow the attention and the focus to just withdraw from being so hooked into the sounds and the sights of the world around us. Allow yourself to unhook that. Sounds will always be there. The world will always keep doing its thing. But your awareness, your focus, that's in your hands. Bring it in. Allow that awareness to rest in your breath. Don't try to change the breath, but just allow the awareness, the attention, the focus to merge into your breath. As it flows in and flows out. Allow yourself to just be right here, right now. In this breath. And in the perfection of this breath. And as you inhale, feel yourself taking in this sacred prana, this sacred life force of this holy land. This is the land of the saints and the sages, the rishis and the yogis. As you inhale, feel that sacred energy come into your body. Feel yourself breathe in that sacred prana as it flows off the tops of the Himalayas, over the waters of Mother Ganga, and into you. Breathe it in. Slowly bring the hands together at chest level and gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly and gently lower your hands and open your eyes. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be back together after the last 2 days of beautiful, beautiful programs, beautiful, beautiful long artis, beautiful, beautiful rain, what we call Akash Ganga, Ganga flowing from the sky. But 2 days that prevented us from having satsang together. So it's so beautiful to be back together. And starting as usual with a question that's come in advance, and then we'll open it to any questions that anyone here might have. What is the meaning of moksha? Moksha is that which is used to refer to liberation, freedom. People talk about moksha as the end of this cycle of birth and death. According to the Hindu tradition of Sanatana Dharma, we have a cycle of birth and death. We keep taking birth because we've got a karmic bank account that has to be expended. Unfortunately, it's not like a normal bank account where if I've got, say I'm in the minus of $10 and then I put in $15, now I'm in the plus of $5, where they cancel each other out. In our karmic bank account, you've got to keep coming back in order to work through both the plus and the minus. So if I've got minus 10, I'm going to have to come back to deal with that. If I've got plus 15, I'll come back and deal with that. They don't cancel each other out. So the teaching is that whatever we are doing, karma, action. Karma means action. And that every action has a result. Not unlike Newton's laws of physics, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So the difference with karma is it's somewhat deeper because it's not immediate. It's not necessarily exactly opposite, but rather each action has a result, a fruit. If you plant a seed, you're going to get a tree or a flower. Whatever I'm doing, there's going to be an energetic repercussion. That energetic repercussion makes us have to keep coming back, lifetime after lifetime, in what we talk about as this wheel of samsara, right? This never-ending cycle of birth and death and birth and death. Okay. So then the question becomes, so what to do? Like, how do you actually become free? So that's what a huge portion of the Bhagavad Gita, which you could think of as kind of the core scripture of Hinduism. It's only 700 verses, but it's said that the Upanishads are the essence of the Vedas. So the Vedas are mammoth. The Upanishads are said to be the essence of the Vedas. It's where the word Vedant comes in, the end of the Vedas, the distillation of the Vedas, crystallization of the Vedas. And the Bhagavad Gita is said to be the quintessential scripture, the core scripture, the essence of the essence in 700 verses. So in that, we get taught how to perform actions in such a way that we end up free, so that we're not accruing any bank account, neither positive nor negative. Because, of course, otherwise you're stuck. You do something bad, and you get bad karma. You do something good, you get good karma. But either way, you're bound to this bank account. You've got to come back. You've got to spend that karmic bank account or earn for the karmic bank account. Moksha is that which happens when your bank account is zero. When you've actually worked through all of your karma. Now, traditionally, people tend to think of it as something that happens after they die. So they talk about attaining moksha after they die. But that's not actually how it works, because unless you attained it here while you were living, after you die, you're just going to have to keep coming back in a new body to keep working through it. It's like If you don't learn long division, you're going to have to keep doing 5th grade. You know, they may love you, you may be a great person, but you've got to know how to do long division in order to move on to 6th grade. So moksha is this liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Ultimate freedom, meaning I don't actually have to take another birth. Once I die, I will just merge into the divine, the drop merging into the ocean. No more births have to be taken, no more bodies have to be taken, no more anything. The dilemma is, as I said, it doesn't happen after birth unless it happens in life. And in life we get what we speak about as Jiva Mukti. Jiva Mukti is a term that means literally freedom in the body, freedom while living. Mukti is freedom, Jiva is this life, this being. In this being, in this body, in this life, how I can have freedom. And that's where we get into really the depth of it, because if it were just something that we got after we die, well, then that would mean that my body was the problem. I mean, if I just get free of my body and then I've got moksha, then it means the body was the dilemma. The body was what kept me stuck. But it's not the body. Nobody ever was stuck because of their elbow or their knee or their hip bone. I mean, these are not problems for us. They're not keeping us stuck in a cycle of birth and death and rebirth. It's the mind. It's not the body. When the mind is in a good place, and if you think about this, you'll realize that you've experienced this in life. You could be in a fantastic physical situation. Body is healthy, maybe you're in some beautiful resort somewhere. I mean, everything is just exactly conducive to joy, to peace, to ecstasy, minus the pills. And yet, you're angry. You're upset about something. You're frustrated, you're depressed, you're miserable. You spend that vacation just getting drunk, because even healthy body, beautiful environment, no problems outside, the mind creates so many problems. And of course, we can't escape the mind. It's part of that inescapable part of our baggage whenever we travel. It has to come with us. Whatever else you leave behind, the mind is with you. So the mind is actually the problem. So real moksha is actually freedom from the games of the mind. Because when the mind is set, and if you think back to your life, you can probably think of some examples of this where maybe outside was not so perfect. Maybe your physical body wasn't necessarily in tip-top shape. Maybe things were happening in the world around that were challenging. But your mind was at peace. Your mind was anchored and grounded. And so the actual felt sense experience of that is much better than the felt sense experience of the troubled mind in a tropical paradise. And so real moksha is freedom from the games of the mind. Freedom from illusion, ignorance, false identification, jealousy, judgment, competition. All of that leads to suffering. And all of that that's rooted in ignorance. The ignorance that says, I am this body. I am its story. So it leads to suffering. And then we're stuck. Then we get angry, we get jealous, we are in competition, we have fear, we have desire. So real moksha is freedom from the games of the mind, freedom from the bondage of the mind, in the body, such that when this body is done, we don't need another one afterwards. That we've cleared that karmic bank account. Or that we're no longer stuck, but we may decide to take a body, because of course if you're not stuck, the earth's a pretty beautiful place. Our bodies are these beautiful ways to interact with this beautiful creation. As long as our mind's in the right place, then we get to use our body, use our senses to experience divinity in the creation. To listen to the sound of sacred chanting, to look at the beautiful waters of Mother Ganga. I mean, to be immersed in the sacred creation. So moksha is from the mind. And this is why we meditate, why we read scripture, why we pray, why we contemplate, why we introspect. It's why we do all of that, to free ourselves from the bondage of the mind. So that's your real moksha. And it's possible right here, right now. You don't have to leave your body for it. You don't have to wait until after you die. But right here, right now. It's available for all of us. Questions? Anyone with any questions?
Hello. I have one question. Actually, what is life?
What is life?
Yes, I'm very curious about. Actually, this question is right or wrong, I don't know, but I'm curious.
There's no such thing as a wrong question.
Okay, thank you.
As long as it's a question that matters to you and is something that will help you on your path. So what is life? Well, I'm gonna quote my guru, Pujya Swamiji here, because he has a beautiful teaching, which I'll give first in Hindi because it rhymes much more nicely in Hindi, but then I'll give you the English translation. The Hindi says, Bolo jivan kaisa hai, jaisa banalo वैसा है, चाहे इसको स्वर्ग बना लो, चाहे इसको नरक बना लो, बोलो जीवन कैसा है, जैसा बना लो वैसा है. And it means in English, what is life? Well, life is what we make it. If we want to turn it to heaven, we turn it to heaven. If we want to turn it to hell, we turn it to hell. But life is exactly what we make it. On a biological level, I mean, if you asked a biologist what is life, well, they could tell you this many parts carbon, this many parts hydrogen, this many parts oxygen, this much nitrogen. Here's how the molecules bind together. But that's just the physical elements of life. Once we've got our hydrogen and our oxygen and our carbon and our nitrogen bound together in the appropriate ways, well, then what? That's when we actually start creating a life. And that creation begins on the inside. We are not victims of life. We're not victims of circumstances. Yes, things happen. Yes, we live in a world. my life is not a sum total of things that have happened to me. My life is a sum total of how I have reacted to the things that have happened to me. How I have thought about, interpreted the things that have happened to me. How I have changed or grown or contracted or expanded in response to the things that have happened to me. Most of us think that life is just that which is happening. Stock market is doing its thing, the weather's doing its thing, the natural world is doing its thing, everybody around me is doing their thing. And when those things are what I like, what I enjoy, what make me happy, well then life is great. Life is wonderful. But when those things are not what I want, not what I like, not what I enjoy, then life is miserable. But that's not what life is. We're not just a reaction mechanism. We're not just the response to stimulus. We are creators of our own life. And so every minute and every moment, it's a beautiful question to ask ourselves. What is my life right here, right now? How am I making my life right here, right now? First of all, the first question to ask is, am I even here? Am I here? Yes, my body's here. But am I here? Is my awareness here? Am I consciously here? Am I mindfully here? Or am I planning what I'm going to eat for dinner? Or who I'm going to meet at the club later on? Or reminiscing about what I had for breakfast, or worrying about the conversation I have to have at the office tomorrow, or redoing the conversation I had at the office yesterday. Because that's how most of us live. And the problem with that is we are separate from life. Because life is only right here, right now. Past is over, it's no longer here. Future has not yet arisen. All we have is right here, right now. This is life. Are we responding to life? Are we in life? And it's a fantastic question to ask over and over. I mean, this is the stuff Gyan Yoga is made of. Questions. Who am I is the most common. But what is life is a great one. What is my life? Because of course it's not just the money I'm making or what my physical body looks like or my career. Because those things keep changing. Ultimately, we have to anchor ourselves in that which is unchanging. Or we just literally live going up and down on the waves of life as it changes. We go up and down like on the waves of the ocean. We have to anchor ourselves into that which is eternal and unchanging, which is the self. And so, yeah, keep asking yourself every minute, what is life? Not in a theoretical, philosophical, you're writing a treatise sort of way, but in a right here, right now. Am I living my life? What life am I creating right now? I love the bells. You know, they're puja bells, but I love them because you may have noticed that in all the Hindu temples we have bells. And we ring the bell before we go into the mandir. I've heard people say, oh, it wakes up God, like we're coming in, like you're ringing the doorbell, okay, we're coming in. Obviously, that's not what it's about. God does not need to be woken up. God doesn't need any notice that we're entering. It's to wake us up. It's to remind us, I'm now going into a holy place. I'm going to leave my anger and ego and ignorance and jealousies and judgments and nonsense, waste my time, waste my life thoughts at the door. The bell is that should be ringing in our minds, literally. Wake up, wake up. So we ring the bell outside the temple before we go in to wake us up, to make us be present with the divine. So I love that we got some puja bells today to just, as we're talking, what is life? It's perfect to just shake us awake. Where are we? What are we creating? What life are we creating? And as those bells ring, either literally or metaphorically, realize that you've always got the power to change it. Right here, right now, is the pre of that which is predestined to happen in the future. We are literally creating our predestined life right here, right now. So, yeah, definitely not a wrong question, a beautiful question. And a question that should be asked like a bell in our minds, not to be answered on a philosophical, theoretical, oh, I heard this, I read that, this leader says this one said that. But actually, the question itself is a bell in our minds. Oh yeah, life. Am I in it? Am I here? And what am I creating? Yes, if you've got a question, just raise your hand. He's just coming with a microphone.
Namaskaram, Sadhviji. I have a series of tactical questions related to mental health. May I?
Of course, let's take them one at a time.
Sure. So, these questions come from my own lived experiences because in the past few years, I've really suffered a lot because of poor mental health. So I'm curious to know from you that how do you suggest that we take care of our mental health? And I also wonder that when we do yoga, pranayam, does it mean that we get rid of anxiety, stress, or does it just help us manage them well? And if I may just add one more question on that.
Of course.
Do you think that medicines, therapy, these things are really important and can be the ultimate panacea, or or they don't help much?
Okay. 3 great interconnected questions on mental health, as today is Mental Health Awareness Day. He was saying he's been struggling a long time with his mental health. And what's the best way to have mental health, to have good mental health? Do yoga and meditation just help us manage our anxiety? Or do they actually help us get free of it? And then what's the role of medication? Is it the magic bullet or not? So, mental health management requires a lot of different things. It's like saying, what's the best way to manage my physical health? Now, assuming that you're healthy to begin with, we could come up with 4, 5, 6 great ways of staying healthy. Get enough sleep, Eat the right foods at the right times of day, at the right times of year. Get some good exercise. Drink enough water. Right? I mean, it's not rocket science. You just have to go to Google or listen to anybody these days, and there's lots and lots and lots of methods to maintain health, assuming that you're healthy to begin with. But if someone comes to you with heart disease or cancer or some other illness and says to you, what's the best way to maintain my health? Well, these 4 or 5 things I've just mentioned certainly would be helpful to them, but they also need a lot more. They need some more very specific guided treatment. And it may fall in those categories. It may come under the right food. But it's not going to be just a matter of get enough fruits and vegetables and grains and stay away from meat and sugar. There's going to be something more specific, more tailored based on what your ailment is. And you may need something even beyond that. There may be medicine you need. Whether it's allopathic medicine, whether it's Ayurvedic medicine, homeopathic medicine, naturopathic medicine. But there may be additional things required. And the same thing is true with mental health. So we can say if you are very mentally healthy to begin with, well, to maintain it, to stay healthy, some of the similar things: get enough sleep. Actually, lack of sleep has a huge impact on our mental functioning, on our mood. So does our food. So does our diet. So does proper hydration. Amazingly, so does exercise. And we would add, do yoga, meditate, have a spiritual connection. A spiritual connection is one of the most powerful predictors of mental health. Have deep connection. Deep connection. Ideally, a deep spiritual connection, but also deep connections in your life with others. Serve. Use your life to serve others. Do something meaningful so that at the end of the day when you go to sleep, it mattered to someone that you got out of bed that day. Because to get up every day and not have any kind of a ripple impact upon the planet or anyone's life is depressing. I mean, the fact that the planet would be no different whether you got up or didn't get up, that's a very depressing thought, even if I'm not depressed to begin with. So, assuming that you've got robust mental health to begin with, maintaining your physical health, bringing in a spiritual component through meditation, through prayer, through devotion, yoga, great for the body, great for the mind, great for the heart, service, connects us to others, makes us realize how much divine flows through us. But if you're dealing with a situation where you've already got mental distress, well, you may need a lot more than that. It may take components of that, but you may need more. If you've been traumatized in some way, if you've got anxiety, if you've got depression, if you've got any one of innumerable illnesses, if you're suffering from addictions, from eating disorders, from so much that we struggle with in so many ways, well, some additional assistance is of great benefit. Therapy, again, there's a whole variety of different types. But some way in which you are working directly with what you're suffering from. And medication. You know, in some cases, for some people, for some certain periods of time, it's really helpful. I'm not anti-medication at all. As long as it's not used instead of doing the work. So if I'm suffering from depression, let's say, and I'm so depressed that I cannot drag myself out of bed. I cannot get out of bed in the morning. And I'm suicidal, I want to kill myself. And medication can help me get out of bed, keep myself from killing myself. Well, that's fantastic. But then I need to use the fact that I've gotten out of bed and I'm still alive to actually do my work to overcome my depression. It's not just, oh, now I take these pills and I feel better. The pills are that which are used to help us be balanced enough, have the energy enough to stay alive, to get out of bed, to do our work, to show up at therapy or counseling or yoga or wherever we go, so that we actually can heal. So I would definitely not say they're a magic bullet, by any means. Because we're not just chemical beings. To say that medicine itself was the cure-all implies that mental illness is simply a chemical problem. And it isn't. Yes, there's chemical components. But it's a problem rooted in issues of our society, issues of the way that we run our systems, our communities. It has to do with our individual experiences, that which we've been through. There's so much that leads to mental illness that's not just about a chemical imbalance. So medicine is not the cure-all, but it is fantastically helpful, fantastically beneficial for some people with some illnesses for some period of time. And I'm all in favor of that. It's like if you've got diabetes and you're going to die from diabetes, long before you can get your exercise program working, long before your lifestyle changes and eating habits changes can bring down your blood sugar. By all means, take whatever you need to take to keep your blood sugar low enough that you don't die, while you bring about lifestyle changes so that ultimately you can take less and less of the medicine, and even ideally at some point be able maybe to go off it. So I think of psychological medicines in the same way. They're things that we use, ideally temporarily, to help us through a period of time to be able to do the work that we need to actually heal. Now, there are some illnesses, psychotic illnesses mostly, in which people will be medicated for most of their lives. People with schizophrenia, for example, will be medicated for most of their lives. People with some forms of bipolar disorder will be medicated for most of their lives because there is a huge chemical component that doesn't respond nearly so well at all to non-chemical forms of treatment. But what's most important is to realize there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you weak any more than needing medicine for diabetes makes you weak. The point of our life is to use all tools that we have to live a life that is fulfilling, deep, connected, in love, in peace, in awareness, in joy. And if a medication can help me find that when I'm unable to find it, for a period of time as I learn the way to find it myself, there's nothing to be ashamed of there. Lastly, then, in terms of do yoga and meditation just help us manage the anxiety or become free, we can become free. It's one of the greatest truths of the world, and it's an interesting thing to talk about because just today exactly is the day that Jaico, which is a big Indian publisher, has released today the Indian edition of my memoir called Hollywood to the Himalayas. And it was published last summer in America, but the Indian edition taken up by Jaico has literally just come out today. And I mention that here because my journey was a journey of healing and transformation, as the subheading of the book is. I struggled a lot. I suffered a lot. I found through spirituality, through yoga, through meditation, through surrender, through devotional practices, through inquiry and gyan and study, actual freedom from it. I used to think before I came to India that the best you could do was manage your life. I was 25, and to me that was the highest goal. I had learned personally to manage my life. There had been times of my life when I wasn't managing it nearly so well. But by the time I was 25, I had gotten to a point where I felt like I was managing. I was managing my pain. I was managing my anger. I was managing my struggles. I was managing my relationships. I was managing my school. I was in the midst of getting my PhD in child neuropsychology. Because that's an interesting thing about mental health and mental illness, is remarkably a lot of us, even as we suffer, are amazingly highly efficient and effective, and you would have no idea from the outside in how much we're suffering. So you can't, and it's an important point to mention on Mental Health Awareness Day, people struggling with anxiety, with depression, with addiction, with all of that we struggle with, do not necessarily look different. They don't necessarily writhe around on the floor in pain and anguish for everyone to kind of walk around them like this is a person in trouble. We don't all stand on soapboxes on a corner and people cross the street because we look really crazy. A huge percentage of people who are suffering are highly proficient in so many ways. But it wasn't until I came to India that I actually discovered I could be free, not just manage. That it wasn't about management. It was about freedom. So, as we start to get the beautiful blessings of Akash Ganga, the Ganga from the sky, yes, you can be free. Yoga, meditation, spirituality, doing your own work. You've got to do the work to let go of that which is creating the anxiety, of those patterns. And then, yes, you actually can become free, not just manage it. And lastly, before we leave from satsang, ye kuch chata jara leke aayega iske liye, hai na? Before we leave from satsang, we have a very, very beautiful birthday to celebrate. It's our beloved Karen's birthday. Karen is a dearly, deeply beloved member of our Parmarth family, Parmarth Seva team, and today is her beautiful birthday. So in our traditional satsang tradition, we will sing happy birthday to her. We'll sing it first in English. It seems like the language that everybody's best at. But then, assuming that the rain doesn't become super heavy, we will see whether people here come from different languages, different backgrounds, and let people sing happy birthday to Karen in all of their different languages. So let us begin together in English. Happy birthday to you. Everyone together. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Karen. Happy birthday to you. We love you. Okay, other languages. Raise your hand and he'll bring you a microphone. Anybody who knows any language other than English? Yes, great.
Dutch.
Dutch, wonderful.
Lang zal ze leven, lang zal ze leven, lang zal ze leven in de gloria, in de gloria, in de gloria. Hiep, hiep, de piep.
Hooray! Any other languages? Sanskrit. Yes. Fantastic.
Sudinam janmadinam tava bhavatu mangalam janmadinam tava sudinam janmadinam tava bhavatu mangalam janmadinam tava Bijayi bhava sarvatra sarvada Bijayi bhava sarvatra sarvada Bhavatu mangalam janmadinam tava sudinam janmadinam tava Bhavatu mangalam janmadinam tava Om dirghayuscha okade khanika jasmaishchatva ghanamyaham atostvam dirghayurbhutva shatabalasa virohatata.
Beautiful. What a joy to celebrate you, to celebrate your beautiful life of such surrender and such service and such a divine alignment. We were talking yesterday in the full moon about how we learn from the moon that if we want in life to feel light, to experience light, to share light with others, that the moon gives us the way, which is just get in alignment. I mean, the moon is a rock. She doesn't have any actual light of her own. But she's this rock in perfect alignment between the sun and the earth, such that she shines that light of the sun onto us, and we experience this full moon. And it's such a beautiful teaching because so many of us want to experience light, to feel light, to share light, to bring light. But we're so focused on thinking about, it's all about me. And the moon teaches us, it's not about you. It's about the divine. And it's about just aligning yourself with that divine so that you can be like the moon, a full reflector of that light, of the divine onto the world. And Karen, it's so beautiful to watch your beautiful, beautiful blossoming and unfolding of the full moon of you as you align yourself so beautifully with the light of the divine and then share that light in so many ways with all of us and everyone. We love you. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and afternoon to our family joining us from all over the world. And so, so, so much love to you all. Look forward to being together again tomorrow.